I'm Scotty Tattlebaum, the last surviving person who worked on the clay model of Project Opel.
I don't know what he's going to say because I wasn't there. He was there during the creation. Scott.
Hello, everyone. Now, I would like to mention the chief designer then again was Carl Renner, R-E-N-N-E-R. Now, Carl Renner is not here with us today, and I feel...
Scotty, there's his picture. The one on the right is Carl Renner.
Okay, that's Carl Renner up above there. I think he was only in his 20s then. I'm just going to say that it's just a shame that he's not here with us today. And I feel honoured that I should be speaking for him. Now, I think he honestly deserves every bit of recommendation to be nominated and accepted by the Hall of Fame.
This seminar, held in 2003 inside the Chevrolet Theater, started a journey that took over 3 years to complete. But Julius Scotty Teitelbaum did not give up until Carl Renner had been accepted into the Corvette Hall of Fame. Carl Renner was born in Nuremberg, Germany in 1923, but by the time he was 4, his family had packed up and moved to America. By the time Carl was 20, he knew what he wanted to do.
You know, he used to be a designer or an animator at Disney. That was his ambition. He went to Disney out from Detroit, grew up in Detroit, out to Hollywood. Came around, he had all his drawings under his arm. Came around the corner and bang, crashed right into a guy and spilled all his... The guy was Walt Disney. So he got a job at Disney. But he was frustrated. After a year, he felt he was being stifled. You know, drawing Pluto was fun, but not forever. So he went back to Detroit and got a job at GM Design.
We talked about Disney, and that was where I first learned about that he had been at Disney before that, and I think he was kind of proud of that in a way, and he should be, or should have been, because I'm sure it was an effort for him to get out there and to become involved with that. And he enjoyed his days with Disney, but I think he probably enjoyed his days with General Motors more.
It was working in Los Angeles as an animator for with Walt Disney. And I think he worked there a couple of years. And it was always his ambition to be an automobile designer. So when he went back, he got employed with General Motors, and he was not a Mickey Mouse designer. He was a top-notch designer, as proven with Harley Earl choosing him to be the chief designer of Corvette Project Opel.
Yeah, now, of course, that Project Opel took less than a year because it was scheduled to go as a Motorama show car. It wasn't scheduled for production. It was scheduled to be at the Waldorf as a Motorama show car for Chevrolet.
The cars that we did for the Motorama show, I mean, those were kind of a special little treat for us to get to do those. I do want to dispel one thing, though, that has shown up in books on different things, that I was responsible for the design of the original Corvette. I was not.
Harley Earl, of course, he took the best of every designer and he put them together on the car. So Harley Earl gets the credit, as he should, because he was a visionary and he could put these things together. But he had a lot of people, a lot of talented people.
Harley Earl created this secret studio over in a broken down Fisher Body plant, Plant 8, and made sure it was secure and picked the right people to go in it. There was a wonderful creative engineer, Bob McLean, that really did the architecture of the car. And then there was Carl Renner, who actually did the, quote, styling of the car, the shape of the car, and a lot of the details on the car. How do I know this about the history of the design of the Corvette? The reason is because I worked one in that same old Fisher Body plant, but one floor above where the secret project was going on. So I had a pass key, and I just couldn't resist the temptation. I went downstairs one night. Here's the big sign that said no admittance, and I used the pass key and opened the door to see what they were doing. And I was dumbfounded. Here was this wonderful full-size clay model of this car that had covered headlights, smooth lines. The body came right down in between the seats. It had a wraparound windshield. I thought, wow. But I looked on the walls, and there's where I saw what I recognized, the Carl Renner's designs.
When they drew the drawing, they would always at the bottom would sign their name, so they would know who did it. Now, every one of these drawings that were on the wall were his. Now, no one, he was the chief designer. He had the full responsibility of the car.
I had to point it out. So he was a very humble man, and he didn't. I think I had to convince him that he had a lot to do with the original design, but the proof was there when you compare his drawings, no question about it. But I think, well, we were both a little surprised, and I got more information from him than I ever expected to.
Carl was a humble gentleman. He always gave credit to the team, whoever was working, and that's the right thing to do, because no one man designs a car. But the idea, the spark, comes from one man, and Carl put out a lot of sparks.
Even after Carl Renner's contribution to the 1953 Corvette Motorama show car, his career at Chevrolet continued. During this career, a couple of things very important to his future happened. Carl met and finally married his lovely wife, Lillian. And then, later in life, Carl was diagnosed with a rare neurological disease that they said there was no cure for, and that would eventually take his life.
He was such a good designer. They wheeled him, made special provisions for him, and wheeled him in a wheelchair so he could work.
You know, a designer, the hands are critical. The mind is first critical, and then it got to come out through the hands so you can understand. And so that was a handicap for him, and it got worse. They predicted it would get worse. It got worse. But we didn't want to lose. By then, I was Carl's boss. And I love the guy. You know, he is such a positive guy and always humble. He never said, hey, I did that car. You know, he'd say, yeah, I was part of a team that did that car. And we loved him so much, we tried to figure out how we could use Carl now that he couldn't be drawing conventional sketches.
Finally, when Carl got to the point that he could come back, he primarily was assigned different jobs, and I'm not too familiar with most of them, but to do things that he could do. And towards the end, he was given the job of responding to people who wrote letters to GM. If they had a gripe or something, or they liked something, they would write to design staff. Well, Carl was given the job of answering them. So he would write things out, a secretary would send them out. Carl was a very proud person, and he didn't want to give in to the illness. So he would make every effort he could to make whatever he could to do to fulfill his job. And towards the end, before he retired, he moved into my studio, and I set another desk in my office for him as a place to work. Primarily, he was in that location because my studio was situated in a manner that it had an outside door, and it was probably the only studio where you could enter and exit without going by the guards. There were two of us that had keys, my chief engineer and myself. So by having Carl in the office there, we could bring him in and out the back door. Lil could pull up there, and we could take him in and out.
He never let that disease get him down. Every time I saw Carl, he was upbeat, and he always had something encouraging to say, and he would always encourage me. He'd say, yeah, let's keep going, you know. And so he's a type of person that you love. You really love the guy. And you know, the other thing was, I thought about Carl and the Corvette. That's kind of unknown to a lot of people. That doesn't appear in books. His being part of the Corvette Hall of Fame is new news. But it's the right thing to do. And in fact, the Corvette enthusiasts that have the passion for that car owe Carl Renner a lot.